Hi class, in this video I want to talk to you quickly about Chapter 7 and about document and text design. Again, this is a really foundational concept of technical communication, one that you're going to be coming back to again and again throughout the semester in basically every assignment. So we're going to briefly just talk about the 4 design principles discussed in the textbook. Then we're going to talk about white space because it's really important. We're going to talk about fonts pretty quickly, and then I'm going to show you an example of applying some of these design elements to a Word document. So the 4 design principles the textbook talks about are proximity, alignment, repetition, and contrast. Proximity is all about saying that 2 elements that are close to each other appear to be related. So if you want to relate 2 elements, it's a good idea to put them next to each other and to divide them from things they're not related to. In this case, we can see that the fun activities, there's more space around it and between in the next section that shows that this all goes together and this all goes together, and they're using proximity and keeping related things close in order to do that. Likewise, alignment can help organize different pages. If you have things that are farther over to the left, they tend to seem to organize and contain different information that's moved farther over to the right. So we can see that this information appears to be subordinate to the top information. Likewise, this information appears to be subordinate to this. You can use alignment to start structuring pages in that way. Next, the idea of repetition. Things that are of similar importance should appear in a similar way throughout the page, and it should not be changing significantly. So in this case, we can see that all of the main headings are blue and that they are bolded and that they appear the same way. All the secondary headings are bolded but not blue, they're darker black. And you can see them that. And you can see these repetitions of different colors and other elements in the page. Just that repetition can really help us understand how to move through the page effectively. And finally, the idea of contrast says that we can use contrasting colors or contrasting information to really highlight different things. So in this case, we can see that the contrasting dark blue to light blue really highlights this and lets us know that we're here, whereas high contrast between this dark black text and the lighter gray background helps us identify the information, helps us see it more clearly. Okay, on to white space. So white space is broken up into 2 different ideas, passive white space and active white space. Active white space is the idea that it's blank space that's being used to organize and structure information. We can see active white space a lot in this latter example. We can see it around the primary picture, we can see it in between paragraphs. Each of these elements of active white space is helping us see things as different blocks. So you can see the paragraphs more clearly as blocks once white space is being used effectively. A lack of active white space can really lead to a cluttered page design, something that really can overwhelm readers and make it hard for them to get through the entire document. Okay, on to typefaces. So you probably have run into a lot of different typefaces as you've worked throughout your careers and in your academic work. But in terms of technical communication, there's really only 2 types of typefaces that we really pay attention to. We don't pay attention to these kind of fancy decorative typefaces like Script here. Script is not going to be effective because it's too ornate, it's hard to read, it's going to impair people's understanding of it. The 2 types of typefaces that we really pay attention to are serif typefaces and sans serif typefaces, and let's look at what the real difference is. So serif typefaces include these serifs, these little extra elements that kind of come off the sides of the letters. They're typically used in printed words in order to try and help lead an eye from one letter to the next. Sans serif text you're going to find a lot in web writing, and you're going to see that there's not going to be these little decorative elements on it. It gives it a little bit cleaner look, and this just typically helps with lower resolution screens and helps it so more people can read it effectively. Both are used in technical communication. There tends to be a preference more recently towards sans serif, but there is some variance. Part of the key with using effective fonts is just finding one that you think looks attractive and finding one that reads well for the people who are going to be using your documents. So let's look at document design in an example briefly. So this might be the type of design that you are familiar with for academic essays, just a double-spaced 1-inch margin normal 12-point font Times New Roman. Yeah, this is what the typical academic essay probably looks like. The problem is that it's really not effective design. It's effective design for one thing and one thing only. If your professor wants to print out this document and then wants to write comments in between the lines, that extra spacing can help us to write in between those lines. But it's not going to be effective for someone who's reading it. It's not going to help them. It's not going to help direct their eyes to different sections. It's not going to help them really understand how this document is structured. So you can start doing that by adding some of these different design elements that we've talked about. You can start by adding some white space in between sections. You can then go ahead and start adding in some headings. If you start cutting down some of this double spacing, bring it down to single spacing, you're going to start seeing blocks of information much more clearly, which can help you see the structure of the document much more quickly and easily. So we might start trying to break up different sections and start trying to do that. Also, typically in most technical writing, we will have blank spaces in between paragraphs. So you can start doing that and start seeing the paragraphs even more clearly as separate blocks of text. If you do have a line between different paragraphs, you're not going to have the indentation anymore, because the indentation is primarily there just in order to show the separation between paragraphs. Then once you start doing this, you're probably going to start noticing that there's a blank space here, but only a single blank space here too, and that this heading doesn't necessarily seem to relate to this paragraph any more than it does to the paragraph above it. So you might want to start creating a little bit more space between sections, and then have sections start standing out a little bit more. And as you continue to do this, you can start to see a much clearer structure to the document that starts bringing you through it and helps you find the sections that you need. When you're done with all that, you might eventually end up with a document that really tries to help lead readers through it and help them see different sections and identify the different information in it. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily always going to hit on the perfect design the first time, or that there even is such a thing necessarily as the perfect design, but means that if you start paying attention to the way that spacing, that bolding different information, that really paying attention to how the page looks, can help people understand how to use the document and how to find the information they need. So that's the final video for this week. If you have any questions about any of the topics for our lot of content for this unit, please do post them on the discussion board, send me an email. I'm happy to talk about it. I think that these are really foundational concepts they're going to continually use throughout the semester, so I think it's important to get a good grasp of them now. So I'll see you on the discussion boards and throughout the week.